change a little bit the subject. You have a project here, Espaço 337, right? What was the idea and why? I've been there. It's pretty cool. It's a lot of there's a lot of immigrant there, right? I remember at the end, like we all speak English. Like the family that was there with the kids all speak English, and I felt fuck. That's in Brazil. That's not well. I thought it was uncommon, but when I've been there, it was pretty nice. So, what is the idea of Espaço 337?
Well, here's the thing. Like, we just things are floating in the air right now. When this comes out, I don't know if the Espaço 337 is still going to be a thing or not. We got to find out based on a couple of conversations very soon. But on this day that we're recording this, which is we're on it's the 16th or the 15th.
Today?
Yeah.
16th.
16th. So we're August 16th. We're still in August, so we're doing events, and the idea is to mix cultures. Where I know a lot of people who are English speakers or native speakers. He's here. I know him. I know a lot of people that come through to the spot every Saturday that either are native speakers or are Brazilians that speak English. And it's a place. It's like a watering hole. You know what a watering hole is?
No.
You ever watch National Geographic?
Yes, not a lot, not too much, but I.
Well, you ever seen like they're in the savannah in Africa and all of the animals are together because the only one place to drink water?
Yeah.
That's the watering hole.
Oh.
So watering holes bring people together. So I'm saying is that the Espaço 366 is supposed to be like a watering hole for Brazilians, people who are from countries that speak English. You could be from anywhere, but most people I know are from the United States or Canada or England. You know what I mean? And
there were some people from Costa Rica as well, right?
She never came.
Oh, she never came.
But she was supposed to come, the girl from Costa Rica. And just other people from other countries, right? Everybody that came to that event was from the United States. That particular day, there were more Americans there than there were actually Brazilians, which was weird. Like, I was just speaking all in English, like on this podcast. I was translating for the Brazilians in their own country. But that's the idea. The idea is because we like to do shows. After the pandemic, we were getting calls, a lot less calls to do shows. And we used to charge a fee and do a show and get the money. And so I felt that money going away. But we still want to be out there performing, and I'm not going to be on the train and doing stuff like that. That's not me. Yeah. So I was like, let's get a center and we can like mix it with the music and the English and like black culture stuff. Like sometimes we have events talking about history and black history, black culture, different plural black cultures, because there's like Brazilian culture, there's African cultures, there's so anybody that wants to have an event at Espaço 367, as long as it's still there in existence, we don't charge a lot. Y'all can holler at us and we'll do an event if it's talking about dance, music, culture, language. That's what we're all about.
Yeah.
So
And
A plural place.
and also you guys have a English teaching project, right?
Well, that's that's how I've been sustaining myself out here through English. I like working teaching English. It's fun to me. I've been a teacher. Yeah. That's all I know how to do. I was a teacher in public schools in New Jersey. You said we were having a conversation. It was like, well, history, but a lot of people don't. Well, I like that. My degree is in history.
Oh, that's fine.
So I was a history teacher.
Nice.
And then I was actually a history teacher for the Latino students, the immigrants. To be honest, because my degree is not in education. Here you call it pedagogia.
Pedagogia.
I didn't do that. I just went to do the history. I was going to do something called alternate route, where you get your degree, then you start working, and then you at night you go to school and get the other for the education, so you can really give class. I just didn't do the normal route because you have to give a certain amount of teaching hours, and you don't get paid for it. And I just there's no way that I can give all those hours and not make money. So I'm I'm just gonna take the history, go back. But I just never went back because I started working and then I went to Panama. I just moved because my city was in a war between black people and Latinos. I lost students at the school. People died, man.
Oh goodness.
People died, yo. It was crazy.
Over in Newark, right?
What is Plainfield, New Jersey?
Plainfield, okay.
It's next to Newark.
Okay.
It's
okay.
like 2, 3, 4 cities away from them, but little cities. But you got to pass mad, wealthy white cities to get to Plainfield. It's a hood that should not exist, but it exists because we had riots in '67. You know what a riot is?
Right is no.
A riot is a tumulto, manifestation. You break and burn stuff. And in Newark, my father was shot in the head in the Newark riots in 1967. You can look up Newark riots 1967. It was a war. They had all the National Guard out there with them little tanks, not tanks, but the little Jeep type, Humvee type tanks rolling in the city with their bayonets, just killing people. 45 people got killed that night. It lasted 2 days. But my father got shot in the head, but not with a bullet, a rubber bullet.
A rubber bullet.
It knocked him out, though.
Thank God.
And until he died, he had that scar on his forehead.
At this time, we would say 67, war segregation is still on?
Well, I grew up segregated. The thing is, segregation in the South during Jim Crow is by law, where you had the black codes and you had all of these rules of what black people could do and could not do. And that was sanctioned by the local state governments, right? Not the federal government, but the local state government. Not the federal government, because in the North, there was never, like, legal segregation. But people live where they feel comfortable, and they feel comfortable around their own. So, like, when my family moved from North Carolina, like I told you, my cousins, my family's from North Carolina and South Carolina and Virginia. I told you about my father's family. And how they were slaves in that house in that city, Baskerville, Virginia. My last name is Baskerville. I showed you the picture.
Yeah, you showed me your ID.
If you tell us about this, the story about your name, it's pretty interesting for people to know.
Okay. Well, I was showing you. I showed you a picture of the man who enslaved my family. Really? He's from a very popular family, a very rich family. This is Dr. Robert Dorch Baskerville. This is the man who enslaved my family. I walk around with his last name. Probably not going to give it to my child, though. I don't want to keep passing this on, right?
Yeah, sure, for sure.
Now, he started a city in Virginia, in Mecklenburg County, called Baskerville, Virginia. And everybody there has my same last name because he had a lot of slaves, right? He had a lot of slaves. There's like 450 Baskerville.
Wow.
So every time I always meet Americans in different places and their last name is Baskerville, they're all black. There are no white Baskervilles in the United States because after slavery, they all went back to England. He's the same Baskerville family from the Sherlock Holmes book, Hounds of the Baskervilles. That's Sherlock Holmes. Because this is a very popular family in England. They were the Dutches. They've been in England for 1,000 years. Wow. They came to England in 1070 something, right? So they were part of the formation of the Norman people that came from France that became the Anglo-Saxons. The Baskervilles were the first family. There's a font. When you're on Microsoft Word, you never saw that font, Baskerville font?
Nah, I never saw it.
No, there's so many. There's so many. You ever seen
the name sounds super familiar. Like I've heard it before.
Baskerville font. You ever seen the movie Interstellar?
Yes.
That's Baskerville font, right? Baskerville is the font. So
I so much history in this name, eh?
It's because the family is really super rich. Dukes and duchesses of England, and they spread throughout the world. There's Baskervilles in Brazil, in Sao Paulo. Really? You know why? A lot of those guys came after the Civil War was over and slavery was over in the United States. Some of those guys came to Brazil. There's a guy named Nelson Baskerville. Hey, Nelson. Nelson, você não está respondendo minhas mensagens no Instagram, Nelson. Eu mandei algumas mensagens para você. Right? He doesn't respond.
Oh.
Nelson Baskerville, he's a popular playwright that you call dramaturgo here in Sao Paulo.
Wow.
And I put his name in a video because I made a video talking about my family history, and I told him, I'm like, well, Nelson Baskerville, he even looks like the guy who enslaved my family, but he's a Brazilian actor.
Nelson Baskerville.
So one of these people is like, all right, well, I can't have slaves in the United States anymore. let me come to Brazil now, right? And they start the same thing over here. Why? Because slavery still existed for another 30 years after here. That's why there's at least 35 Brazilian people with my same last name.